Hi guys, welcome to another roster review. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and notifications bell just in the corner over there so you know each time we release one of these videos. Right, roster review. Today we've got a really cool one for you. Got my Beast Snaggas out and it's just like it's a very balanced list, but it's like a fun list. I wanted to show you all the different units that there are in Beast Snaggas and what they can do. So first of all, we've got an Evil Sons patrol detachment. We're going to start with the list first like we normally do. So in there, we've got a Beast Boss on a Squigosaur, because they're amazing. He's got the Might is Right Warlord trait, so he's got +1 strength and +1 attack. And then he's got Res Mecha's Redder Paint as a relic. Then I've got 10 Beast Snagga Boys as my troops, and I've got 3 Rucker Truck Squig Buggies and 4 Death Copters because they're amazing, and you're going to find out when we explain what the list does. Then I've got a Goth's Patrol detachment with a Beast Boss in there, with the Ard as Nails Warlord trait, so he's -1 to wound, and Ed Whopper's Kill Chopper, so he's strength ×2, -3, flat 2 damage, and 6s to wound, do a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. Then I've got 10 Snagga Boys again as the troops, 5 Commandos, 5 Storm Boys, and 5 Storm Boys because they play the mission insanely well. And then I've got another Goth's Patrol, so it's triple patrol in my army, with another Beast Boss on Squigosaur. He's got Brutal but Cunning, which is basically competitive edge. So every attack that doesn't reach the inflict damage step, he gets to make another attack for. And he's got the Beast Hide Mantle. So he's got +1 attack and a 5+ Feel No Pain save. Then I've got 10 Snagga Boys, again, as my troops. And this is the cool detachment. So in here, we've got 6 Squig Hog Boys with a Bomb Squig, 5 Squig Hog Boys with a Bomb Squig, and then 2 Knobs on Smasher Squigs. And that's just so cool. And a Kill Rig. Man, I'm so excited about this army. And I'm going to tell you exactly how everything works in there. So just quickly with the... just quickly with the Beast Bosses themselves. So you've got the one Beast Boss that is Evil Sons. And basically Might is Right gives him +1 strength and +1 attack. So he's making 6 attacks at strength 7 -2 damage, and then another 3 attacks from the Squig, and he's got Res Mecha's Redder Paint, so he's moving 13 inches, then charging, and he makes everybody in engagement range of him fight last. So he's very killy, and he makes people fight last, and that's how he stays alive. Then you've got the other Beast Boss on Squigosaur, the 2 Goths ones. So the first one's got Ard as Nails, so he's toughness 7, and he's -1 to wound with a 5 up invulnerable and -1 damage, so he's very tough. But he's also got Ed Whopper's Kill Chopper, so he's making 6 attacks, a strength 12, -3, flat 2 damage, and 6s do mortal wounds as well. And he's got 3 attacks with his Squig. Then you've got the other Beast Boss, and he's got Brutal but Cunning and the Beast Hide Mantle, so he's making 7 attacks at strength 6, -2 damage, but re-rolling, getting an extra attack for every attack that doesn't make the inflict damage step. And also the Squig's getting 3 more attacks as well. And he's got a 5+ Feel No Pain. So he's toughness 7 with 5 up invulnerable, a -1 damage, a 5 up Feel No Pain, and 9 wounds. Those 3 characters are so tough to take down, and people are just going to be scared of them. And that's why the list is going to be able to play the mission the way that I'm going to explain in the how it all works bit. Right, so let's have a look at how the list works. So this one isn't as in-depth as the other lists we've been talking about on roster reviews so far. And the reason for it is it's fairly balanced and it does a little bit of everything, but the Orc Codex itself isn't like super overpowered like Admech, Sisters, and Drakari and stuff like that. So we're just showing off some of the things that they can do. Now, the Beast Bosses and the way that they're tooled out, obviously I explained in the list bit, they're just super solid. The Evil Sons one is super versatile, letting a core unit advance and charge or fall back and charge, and then, making people fight last when he gets there. And he's got +2 inches to his move, +1 to his move for being Evil Sons anyway. So he's moving like 13 and charging. And yeah, he's doing all sorts, and he's just, picking up these little combat units and stuff like that. Then you've got the 2 tough ones who are running around, tough to kill, smashing the hell out of things, and they're both Goths, so that's massive. So I think like those, they need no explanation. They go in there, they absolutely butcher things in combat, and they give everyone +1 to hit in combat as well. So, but the idea is you kind of want to split them. So you want to send them, you know, up the board with different units. So like the Goth ones want to go up the sides of the board with some cavalry and knobs on smasher squigs and stuff, so that they can kind of come around the edges and play in from the sides. And then up the middle, you just want to hide your Beast Snagga boys around objectives and stuff. And then, you know, you've got your Storm Boys, and they're there purely to play the mission and like screen your Beast Snaggers and stuff like that from getting charged, because you want to be the one doing the charging mainly, because your units are very brittle. If you get charged by the combat units that are currently in the game, you're going to go down. You're going to go down fairly quickly. So the Storm Boys are used as like a screen and to play the mission. And then the kill rig. Oh man, that kill rig is just insane. I think the fact that if you can cast a power, you've then got D3 auto hits with a las cannon profile is just insane. You don't get that kind of shooting in an orc army. I absolutely love it. And when it gets to combat, it's no slouch. You got the massive horns on the squig and stuff, and they do amazingly. And I also think, like, if your cavalry units go up the flanks, it's going to force your opponent to either play down the middle into your Snagga boys, or try and deal with the cavalry and then get tied up dealing with them for a few turns. That's what you're trying to hope for with this army. Your commandos deep strike in. So let's talk about secondaries then. That's the way it all works. And then like you've got your squig buggies as well, guys, because you've got your unit of 3 squig buggies, and they can move forward, they can shoot out a line of sight, and then they can use the stratagem to move again, and they can move backwards and hide even more. So you've got those squig buggies in the list, and the death copters too. They pack a big punch because they've got 6 attacks a model with their spinning blades. So they've got 24 attacks with 4 of them. They do really well. But they can also jump out, rocket something, and jump back behind walls, especially because your squig buggies can shoot out line of sight. So they might not need to use that strat. So that's actually really, really powerful there. So you've got quite a lot of like clearing, and that's the thing, is having those rockets that can move out, shoot, and then hide again, and having the squig buggies that can shoot out a line of sight is going to force people to engage with your cavalry or your Beast Snaggers to get to those units. Otherwise, you're going to shoot them all game. So that's what people don't really want. So it's fairly cleverly thought out in that way. The only thing left to talk about is the secondaries. What secondaries does it do really well? Now, I really like the list because it can do to the last. You've got to be a little bit careful with it, but you can. Now, the kill rig in most games is going to die. I'm not going to lie to you. You probably lose the kill rig a lot. But the death copters being able to move out, shoot, and hide again, and your squid buggies being able to shoot out a line of sight all game, those are probably 2 units that you can keep alive unless you get tabled. They're probably the last 2 units to die in your army because they'll be behind all of your combat units. So I think you can reliably get 10 points onto the last in pretty much every game. Then on top of that, engage on all fronts or stranglehold are just your fortes. You're going to be flooding the board. So one of those is going to be no problem in getting 10 plus on. And also it can do retrieve data very easily because you've got your 2 units of Storm Boys and your commandos. So it plays the mission very, very well. Like you've just seen, it can do 3 secondaries regardless of what your opponent brings. You're not relying on your opponent. That's why it's quite good here. It functions on doing 3 secondaries independent of what your army brings, your opponent brings, and it's putting pressure on, so you're going to get primaries unless your opponent engages or your combat units. Right, so let's have a look at how we can tackle this list. The first thing about tackling this list is realizing that quite a lot of it is cavalry. Like all 3 beast bosses on their squigosaurs are cavalry. Both knobs on smasher squigs are cavalry. The 3 units of squig hog boys, they're all cavalry. So there's like 3, 6, 8 units of cavalry in this army. And the important thing about them is they can't move across things. And their bases are fairly big. They're not on small bases or anything like that. They're on fairly decent sized bases. So if you stand in their way, they can't get past you. So I think that's probably the best way of dealing with this, is cheap chaff units. If you can run forward with some chaff units and kind of block a line off or 2 lines off where they can't really run through, then that's really going to cause them some problems. Another thing is just high volume of fire. So the crazy thing about this list is it's not very tough. I mean, the squigosaurs are tough. But like the knob on the smasher squig, the squig hog riders, they don't have a great save. They don't have very many wounds. The buggies, they just got a 4-up save. The death copters are the same. They just got a 4-up save. So a lot of the things will go down super quick if you can get to them. And that's the thing. So like just a high output, I think is best. Like you don't need quality weapons against this list, just a high output of shooting, basically. The only thing that's tricksy is like the Deathcopters and the Squig Buggies. So for that exact reason, I would definitely recommend the third counter, just having some combat punch in your army, like counter punch maybe. Not something that goes out there and smashes face instantly, but something that kind of waits for the orcs to get close to them, because this list does have to get close to you to play the mission and stuff. All the cavalry and, you know, the characters on the squigs and stuff, they're all combat units, even the Deathcopters. But the thing is, like, you've got Deathcopters and squigs, squig buggies that can kind of come out, shoot and hide again, come out, shoot and hide again, like we were talking about with the Evil Sun stratagem. So because they can do that, that's something that's gonna like it's gonna unengage with you. It doesn't really want to play with you. It's gonna like try trading with you or sitting at the back and just playing the mission with those different units. But that's exactly why, if you have some sort of counter punch and you can go and like fish for them, it's gonna be huge. So high output of shooting, some combat punch, and chaff units to scream with. That pretty much does counter this list. So if you come up against it, that's how to play against it. Now let's have a look at some modifications. Right, modifications to the list. So I think the obvious one is, of course, there's just one unit of 3 squig buggies in this army, Ruckatruck squig buggies. And the reason for that is this is meant to be like a balanced army, because I wanted to show off and let you guys know what all the, not show off me, but like show off all the new units that orcs can take now and like what they can do and stuff like that. So, you know, we put that in to just show you what everything does basically, but it's not the most optimized list. So the first thing to notice is only 3 Ruckatruck squig buggies. They're probably the overall winner in the codex. So having more squig buggies, you know, like 6 of them or something, and dropping maybe the kill rig is like the obvious answer. But other than that, I really like the list. I like the cavalry being there. You know, the Knobs on Smasher squigs, we talked about their value, why the Squigosaur war bosses are in there. The Storm Boys are there to fulfill a specific role. The Commandos are there for a certain role. The Beast Snaggas boys do hit hard like we were talking about, so they're there for a reason. I wouldn't really take anything else out, to be honest. Just the kill rig is there because it's super cool and it does give you some options and some punch, but it's not necessarily needed, shall we say. So instead of that, I think maybe a few more buggies. That's the real modification I would make. Of course, you can do other things, but I love everything else about the list. I really like the Deathcopters as well. The Deathcopters is personal preference. You may only like a unit of 3 and maybe putting in a few more cavalry and stuff like that. But personally, I like to have the unit of 4 because it does some decent damage as well. And they're fairly good in combat when you take them in that. So really, the Squig Buggies is the only change I would recommend to the list. I hope you've enjoyed that roster review, guys. Just hit that subscribe button, the notifications bell if you haven't already, which I know you probably did at the start of the video, right? And yeah, I hope you really enjoyed the video, guys. And I'll see you next week with a list from the Into the Hellstorm. I'm going to that tournament this weekend, so I'm gonna pick a list that does really well at the tournament, an interesting list, not just same old boring, you know, ones that I've been taking or whatever. And that list, I'll do a roster review on that next Tuesday. So it's like 2 days after the event. So keep your eyes out if you want to see how well people did at Into the Hellstorm. See you later, guys.